I had an experience this week that I'll share with you partly. Life really can be hard. Experiences, some of them we can't control. They just happen, like rain happens. Some of the experiences we have are a direct result of good choices we've made. Some of them are a result of bad choices, and some are a result of choices we didn't even realize we made. Altogether, it's a lot of experience, and sometimes we're ready for them and sometimes we're not. We're all in this together. We're all learning. I'm not better than you. We're just figuring it out. Sometimes it's inexpressibly hard. I'm still learning the hard lessons. I'm convinced that that's never going to be done. This week I was talking to a friend who was expressing what he'd learned from me, the difference I'd made in his life. And in the process, he taught me some things about myself. I just sat and cried like a baby. I'm still learning this stuff, still learning about myself, still learning about you, still learning about living. It was like listening to the voice of God. And we're all God's children, so why wouldn't it be? If we're listening, if we're congruent with that eternal flow, why wouldn't we all speak with the voice of God? It was a pleasure for me, and we all have the opportunity to provide that kind of pleasure for each other and to enjoy it from each other. Oh, it can be hard, and yet I wouldn't have it any other way. It's how we learn. New subject. This is somebody who says, music has always been my number one passion, ever since I was a little girl. I signed up for every band program my high school offered, even if it meant I had to learn a completely new instrument from scratch and stay at school for 12 hours a day. For those of you who don't know, you don't just switch from the trumpet to, say, the flute, and the way the notes are printed, in other words, middle C on a piano, isn't even printed the same for a flute or a trumpet. It's in a completely different place on the staff, on those little lines that you read from, for those of us who haven't read music. So learning a new instrument is crazy hard. Now, there are people who have an aptitude for it, sure. But I, at one point in my life, could play the piano pretty well. I mean, to the point where when I listen to concerts and medleys of classical piano, I've played most of those pieces, and I wouldn't even know what to do with a violin. I wouldn't know how to hold it. I could make some scratchy noises, but this is hard. So here she is learning completely new instruments. That's courageous. Even though she has to stay at school 12 hours a day, she continues. I'm in my mid-20s now and have developed pretty intense anxiety and stage fright. Now, pay attention to this. This lady knows more about playing musical instruments by, 100 times than I do, maybe except for the piano. So experience isn't enough to create enough confidence to drive away fear. Experience alone isn't. What does that teach us? Well, let me talk to her. Your fear, your stage fright, is not a fear of the stage. It's not a fear of, although it manifests itself in that way, it's not a fear of playing instruments. You know how to do that. It's due to the accumulation of a lifetime of pain and fear. Memorize that. Your stage fright is an accumulation of a lifetime of pain and fear. It's not rooted in music. You continue. Learning about real love the past few months has already helped melt away a lot of the panic I used to experience in my day-to-day life. Brilliant. You just proved my point. When people feel unconditionally loved, it melts away fears that don't appear to be related to being unconditionally loved by, say, I could unconditionally love and you could lose your fear of somebody else. In short, your fear of somebody else isn't about them. It's about a lifetime of fear. And if I can help you, or somebody else can help you, it doesn't have to be me, melt away some of that mountain of fear, you lose your fears toward a lot of things. Spiders, rats, flying. I hear this every day. Somebody's lost their fear of something. Simply because they feel loved. And this is the usual effect of love. It melts fear. It melts one part of the body of fear before others. So, for example, somebody may still remain afraid of people, but now they're not afraid of rats. They may lose their fear of spiders first, their fear of flying. Who's to know what order it's going to happen? The sequence is a complete mystery. The speed with which it happens, unpredictable. And see, we're all in a hurry to do things linearly. We really are. Like mathematics. It's the course of learning mathematics is all mapped out. We learn addition, we learn subtraction, then we go to multiplication and division, and then we learn algebra, and then we learn algebra 2, more algebra. Then we learn geometry, and then we learn trigonometry, which merges geometry and algebra, and then we move on to calculus, which merges all of it. It's a fairly predictable sequence. Building a bridge has a fairly predictable sequence. Pouring concrete has a really rigid, predictable sequence, or you screw the whole thing up. But learning to be a happy human being doesn't have a rigid, predictable sequence. Feeling loved is an invariable part of it. Exercising faith in it is, but you can't plan how fast or in what order. I can tell you this. I can pour love all over you, and that alone won't do anything. So I've never said it quite this way, so who knows? It might be useful. I can love you, but in order for love to turning into your feeling love, that requires you to have faith. So now you're participating. So my love plus your faith leads to feeling loved once. You add enough incidents of feeling loved, and you actually have kind of a pattern of experience. So the more experiences you have and the more faith you continue to exercise, faith plus experience leads to, loving experiences, not just any experience like, say, watching videos. Faith plus experience leads to confidence. And boy, once you've got a confidence in feeling loved, once you've got a confidence in who you are, there's an increasing sense of invincibility in that. And then you get to the place where you're afraid of almost nothing. You continue. I'm finding that I'm still terrified to play any instrument in front of another person or share any of my creative ideas with others, even if they avidly encourage me to show them. It's as though I'm so scared of imaginary rejection that I don't even want to start. But I miss music so much, and I studied music technology in college. It's what I've always wanted to do in some capacity as a career. How do I go about starting this again? So love has helped you with your overall panic, but you still have some fears left, and I've seen this thousands of times. Next, you'll lose your fear of, say, spiders or whatever. They just peel away. Eventually, it will be your stage fright. Why is stage fright last? I can't tell you for sure, but I can tell you with high likelihood that your sense of worth is more attached to how you play. Your sense of worth is less attached to whether you can hold it together when a spider's in the room. But people don't put down on their resume of self-worth, not afraid of spiders. I've never seen it. Special skills on your job application, completely unafraid of rodents. Well, good, but not a job skill. Whereas people praise you for how you play. In fact, that's kind of the nature of performing. You're up on a, stage, hence StageFright, and pretty much you're never up on a stage unless there's an audience. Otherwise, you would be in what they call a room. It is the nature of playing music that you're playing it for other people. Yes, you can play it for yourself and completely enjoy it, and I enjoy playing the piano that way. But if you want to turn it into something bigger, like in your case, you mentioned a career, yeah, that's how music and acting and dancing and so on, they're actually enriched by sharing it with an audience. One of my sons is a professional singer and dancer, 2 of them actually, and they describe how they can feel the audience. No kidding. And if there's an audience that's especially not necessarily clapping louder, no, an audience that's just in sync with what you're doing, they can feel it. Their eyes are riveted on you. Their energy is focused on you. They say the whole cast can feel that, except for, I guess, apparently some performers don't feel that. And they perform with greater enthusiasm, genuineness, depth, expression of who they are, because now, instead of them just performing, they're sharing the music. They're sharing the dance. It's a beautiful thing. The performing arts, that's what they call them, is something where you share it with the audience. Not just for clapping, the experience is enhanced by having both the performer and the audience there. Either one alone isn't quite the same. So that would be very likely why StageFright might be your last fear to go. Maybe not. It will go as your reservoir, your overall reservoir of love increases naturally. But if you want to approach your stage fright simultaneously, a little more directly, because you can, you have to increase your overall level of love. If you do only the stage fright by itself, you'll probably fail. But if you want to do both, you can begin to approach the stage fright directly by beginning to spend a little more time practicing by yourself. You think, well, I'm already doing that. Yeah, but for fun, not to get it right. Vladimir Horowitz, who is one of the greatest pianists, almost routinely listed in the top greatest pianists, so that's highly subjective, who's ever lived. He was criticized after a particular performance by a music critic in New York, which is, well, unavoidable. That's why they're there, is to criticize. And he was criticized for playing a lot of wrong notes. And somebody asked him about the comment, and he's a very proper man. I don't think I've ever seen him dressed without a suit. Just very proper. And he said, well, I don't play notes. I play music. Oof. All genuine musicians, and critics rarely are, sorry if you're a music critic, understood that. The notes are just a way to express, if you like, sounds a little kitschy, the music in your soul. That's what he does. And when you listen to him play, you just fall apart. You can't hear anything else. But the expression of him, the notes, he makes a mistake or two. I've heard him make mistakes. I don't care. It's the way he plays. So play for fun, not to get the notes right. In fact, practice this. You're playing along, you play a wrong note. The tendency would be on your part to either scowl. I had to learn to do this when I played in front of audiences of hundreds, sometimes as many as 1,000. Actually, I've played in front of more than 1,000 on occasion. And my tendency would be, as I played, when I hit a wrong note, would be to wince, in part to let the audience know that I knew I'd play a wrong note. So there was nobody out there who went, oh, he played a wrong note, but he's so stupid he doesn't know he did. Really? So I I had to practice playing the wrong note without scowling, without letting it affect my sense of worth. That's what you're going to do. And you're not going to go back and play it right. You're listening to this and going, how does he know I do that? Because I've done it. All musicians do. They'll go back and they'll play the passage until they get it right. You're not going to do that. You're just going to play for fun. You're going to include the wrong notes for fun. Then eventually, when you've got the fun by yourself part right, that was just a completely inappropriate choice of words. When you've got the playing it fun part where it's easy, which is what I meant to say, then invite somebody that you know loves you. I don't care if they know music. Somebody that you know loves you, to be there with you while you play. You might even encourage them in the beginning to be just playing on their laptop. Play solitaire. I don't care. That way, the focus of their attention isn't entirely you. Now you've got somebody there. Then you're going to have somebody that you know loves you and who appreciates music look at you while you play. This is no little thing. If you know they love you, no matter what, well, now see, there's no possibility of rejection. Now you get to experience what it's like to still be afraid, listen slowly, while there's no rejection. We don't think of that. Because then you need to see how absurd your fears are. You're afraid of nothing because there's no way they're going to reject you. It's really difficult to keep being afraid of something when it's absurd, really. So you're afraid of a rat and somebody goes, rat, rat, and then somebody shows you that it's a rubber rat. Yeah, you kind of get off the chair screaming, you know? You feel a little silly and you sit down on the chair and hold your face in your hands. That's what it's like to be afraid while you're with somebody who loves you. Then you can see it's like ridiculous. I intentionally encourage people to see their mother's face on mine or father's and feel afraid and then see how ridiculous it is because now it's different. See? And you still might become afraid. That's okay. See how long you can play with a loving person and then see if you could play a very simple piece, something that you can play in your sleep in front of that person, where you couldn't possibly make a mistake and there's no fear. Something you play just for fun. I have a handful of songs that I play just to let it roll. I know I won't be distracted by mistakes because I could play them in my sleep, possibly unconscious. Play to that person longer and then gradually increase the difficulty of the pieces where they include mistakes, where you don't care, where you don't scowl, where you don't at the end of the piece apologize to that person for making them. I hope you're writing this down because it works, because I've done it before with other performers. Then invite another person who loves you. Then invite somebody you don't know at all. You get the picture. And another and another. Love melts fear. Parenthetically, just for fun. Several years ago, I was visiting China and speaking in front of audiences of thousands, and a man brought a woman up to see me, and he interpreted her Chinese so that I could understand what she was saying. She was a professional singer, did recordings, performed in front of large audiences. She was masterful. What a voice. And she developed stage fright to the point that she was paralyzed. Not only could she not perform, she couldn't leave her apartment because her sense of worth, much like yours, was so tied up in what she did that once she couldn't play, well, then she could believe she couldn't do anything. She read about real love. She found a real love coach in China who loved her, and she felt it. And she began to do exactly the process we just talked about. And now she's singing professionally again. She's not afraid. She's learned that She feels so loved, and it matters so much. It's become the most important thing in her life that if she makes a mistake, well, she's still loved. She still has the most important thing in the world. So who cares? And now this woman is performing in front of thousands again with that marvelous voice because she's not afraid. Oh, gosh, that's gorgeous. All of you who are listening who are not professional musicians, so that you don't tend to dismiss this story as being about stage fright, you could apply this to just about everything you do. It's universal. New subject. A colleague at work clings to me a lot. I sit right next to her. She talks to me all the time. Even when she sees that I'm working, she talks even when I repeatedly point out to her that I can't talk now. Sometimes even when I have my headphones on. I get it, you say. She's in pain and lonely, and she can't help herself when she talks. There has to be something that I do that invites her to cling. I don't see what it is. So first, bless your heart. You're asking what you do that invites her to cling instead of blaming her. I have to, take a drink and a breath to get over this. Good for you, because that's true. Now, do you do something that invites the clinging? Yes, you do. Easy to figure out. You talk to her. That's it. She talks to you and you talk back to her. Well, you don't know it, but you're training her to talk to you. So then you try not to talk to her. And so she has to do more and more things. So first she talks to you and that doesn't work. And then she talks to you again. And then she talks to you louder. And then she talks to you a third time. And then she reaches over and touches you, or she throws a paper clip. Let's just make it easy and say she learned that she had to do 6 things before you would talk back to her. Well, honey, all you did was train her that it takes 6 things instead of 1. So she does 6 things until you pay attention. All she's done is make it so that you're more annoyed by the time you talk to her. You didn't realize you trained her to do this, but you have. You let her control the conversations. How do I know that? Because she absolutely would never do that with me. That's the proof. If she does it with you and she wouldn't do it with me, there has to be something about you. Why wouldn't she do it with me? Because I would say to her, without the slightest annoyance, I'm busy now and I can't talk until either ever, I would probably say until the end of the workday. Or I might say I can't talk until I take a break at 3:10. And then I can talk if you'd like. But I would determine when that was. I would not be influenced by her need to talk to me. And then after saying that, she could dump 5 gallons of water on my head and I still wouldn't talk to her. Somebody might notice, but I wouldn't talk to her. I wouldn't recognize that she was alive, because if you do, she's going to be right back doing the same thing again. And you give in because you're afraid of her disapproval. It's that simple. You're afraid she won't like you. You're afraid you'll look bad to other people. Until you can give that up, she's going to keep doing this. You continue. In the last few months, it gave me lots of opportunities to practice no without feeling guilty. Good start. But you have to say no more consistently. That's actually badly said on my part. Utterly consistently. When you say no, you have to mean no. If it's no and then it's yes after 6 times she bothers you, well, that's not no. And you have to say it more sincerely. You have to mean it. You can't hesitate, equivocate, or change your mind, which you do. No means no. You hesitate half a second to say no, she'll be on you, all over you. You say it drains my bucket a little bit, or I don't feel any effect at all when I'm full. When I don't feel full or I don't feel good, it drives me crazy. I want this to stop. I'm using my earphones all day long and she still tries to find a way to talk to me. Baby, listen to me. Earphones or not, that's not the solution. Although earphones might help you, just not to be distracted. If you completely ignore her, I go through this with parents. If children whine and you give them what they want, you just train them to whine, and then they will whine. 2 days ago, a mother said, well, my son, Tommy, is whining less. And I said, honey, I can hear Tommy in the next room. I don't need to hear Tommy's words. I can recognize whining through 3 brick walls. And he's whining. And she listened and went, yes, he is. I said, he's whining because you let him. Because sometimes when he whines, you can't take it anymore, and you give him something. No, you have to utterly ignore whining. With a child, you say, a verbal child who has even the most rudimentary verbal skills. You can even train children to sign language. There's a whole book on books, actually, libraries, on teaching children to use sign language when they're, 6 months? Or it's young. It's way pre-verbal. And children understand when you say, I will listen to you when you communicate with words, which would include signs, and kids get that. Then if you listen when they're not using words, when they're whining, and if they're whining and using words, that's not words, it's whining. If you pay attention to them, you're dead. You just train them to whine. You're training your workmate to do the same. If you utterly ignore her, it won't bother you. You act like she's not there. You dismiss her from your mind, from your existence. If she keeps going, you tell her straight out, ask me if it's a good time to talk to me, or arrange a time with me to talk to me, because I'm always working. Because oddly, we are at pause work. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. If you don't arrange a time ahead of time, I will not speak. If you do ask and I'm busy and you haven't arranged a time, then I will ignore you. But I would be happy at the beginning of the day to arrange a time to speak to you. 2:25 to 2:35. There's no lack of clarity about that. If you're talking to me about a job that needs to be done, we could talk. But it turns out we don't have the same responsibilities in the same areas. So that would be virtually never necessary. If it were, your supervisor would be talking to my supervisor, who would then talk to me. So I have no reason to talk to you about work. If I have the time, I'll set it up. If I don't have the time on a given day, I won't set it up, but I won't pay attention to spontaneous talking ever. And you can do that and be completely kind. You do not want to let her steal your happiness, which is what's happening now. You're letting her. Be like me putting a sign on my front door. You know, many people have these signs that say protected by, and they name some alarm company, whether they have the alarm or not. But imagine me putting a sign on my front door that says, we're not at home. We'll be back in 6 weeks. And I date it and say, feel free to wander about and take what you want. That's the sign you have on your forehead, honey. So you can't really be terribly surprised that your workmate is doing this. You have to change the rules. This is all you, kid, and I love you, but wow, you could stop this instantly. New subject. I got a dating profile from a woman in Real Love, not, for my use to date her, but she sent me a profile to take a look at. It was such a nice example. So I'm going to read from it. She said, are you looking for a life companion? A real partner? If so, then read on. If not, I may not be for you. Whoa, that's a perfect start. She's saying, I'm not here to entertain you, honey. I'm looking for somebody who's going to be a real partner. And if you're just looking to get laid or you're just looking for a little fun, I'm not your girl. Wow, that's clear. Now let's see how the rest of it goes. She said, I spent most of my life searching for that something that was missing, but didn't know what it was. I used to believe that success and money were the main route to happiness. When I got these things, I discovered they were not enough to fulfill me. In fact, it came at the price of loving my family the way they wanted to be loved. I didn't know it at the time, but I was emotionally empty. As a result, I was selfish and in search of a better feeling outside myself. I worked for over 20 years in the corporate sector. I was seeking personal success at the expense of my family. And then she described finding real love. It teaches people how to find real happiness and have unconditionally loving relationships. The kind of happiness which is not dependent on external things or circumstances. And then she suggested a link to learn more. Notice she just summarized real love in 4 lines. We all need, if we have any interest in telling people about real love, my editor taught me this. He said, tell me what your book's about. And I started talking. He said, you're already boring me. I thought, well, that was a little direct, but I was grateful. He said, you've got to learn to be able to explain real love in 10 seconds. No kidding. Then you got to learn to have a real love explanation in 30 seconds. And then one for 60 seconds. And then one for an hour. And then one for all day. And then one for days. Boy, was he right. She just did it in 4 lines. She said, I discovered what I'd been searching for all my life, which was to feel loved unconditionally. I also discovered the truth about why my marriage and family relations had suffered, and why most relationships fail or cease to be fulfilling after the early stages. She described how her marriage ended when her husband decided not to learn about how to love her. She continues, I've been single for 2 years, divorced for over a year. Instead of trying to find the right partner straight away, I felt it was important to become the right partner. Shoot, what single person wouldn't read this who is really interested in partnership and wouldn't be interested? I mean, I'm fascinated at this potential partner. I've been doing a lot of work on myself, see, as opposed to I'm looking for somebody to make me happy. And now I feel like I'm ready to start looking. I feel the most at peace with myself that I've ever felt, and I'm continually growing. Having said that, I'm still human and I have lots of flaws. Whew, this is beautiful. Lots of truth-telling so far. In a profile, you can either tell the truth about yourself, not all of it, but give people a taste of the truth about yourself in your profile, or you can get to the truth about yourself after 10 years and 3 kids. The latter seems a little stupid. And it is. She's just getting it right out there. It weeds out 98% of the people who look at her profile. Hallelujah. You want to get rid of them. You don't want to paint a perfect picture of yourself on profile because you won't be able to keep up a perfect picture. And then your potential partner will feel lied to. And by telling the truth, you select out the liars who would find the truth uncomfortable. It's beautiful. Her profile continues. Amongst others, I can, for example, when she says amongst others, amongst other flaws, she said it right. I just interrupted her flow. Amongst others, I can, for example, be too quick to offer advice when it hasn't been solicited. I can also seek other people's approval rather than remembering that I have everything that I need already. I'm committed to learning how to identify and change these behaviors. However, if I marry again, my partner would be my number 1 priority. Ooh, big stuff to say. And it would be important to me that they were also willing to learn how to become an unconditionally loving partner and to make me their number 1 priority too. Now, I'm going to interrupt her because she did it right. She's not saying, we're going to trade unconditional love. No. I'm going to learn to be unconditionally loving, she says, and I'm looking for a partner who also knows how to do that. And then we'll practice together and see how that goes. No, not I'm going to love you so you will love me in return. Oh, that's the death that everybody lives in dating already. She continues, I've discovered that a relationship that is not based on a willingness to learn unconditional love will not be happy for either party over the long term. Genius. She continues, I'm a very open person. I'm learning to be more emotionally vulnerable and humble. These are qualities that are important to me in a partner. Enjoying life is really important to me. I like to laugh and have fun, to explore the world and enjoy nature. Now listen, everybody says that on their profile. I love nature. I want a partner who enjoys a fullness of living and walks on the beach and everybody says that. She's saying it in addition to liking those things, which are fun, I'm looking for a partner who can be loving. I have a desire to be honest and learn and to be loving. And then those other things become spice in a relationship. But if you've based your relationship, as pretty much every dating site encourages you to do, on the things you have in common, the fact that you both really, really enjoy canoeing is going to matter less when you're in a canoe together and you hate each other. In fact, canoeing was a good accidental selection on my part, because when you hate each other, it turns out that, and you fight each other in which direction you're canoeing, you just canoe in circles or like a snake. It's awful. Doesn't matter what you have in common. She says, my friends say I'm strong, but tender and affectionate. I'm truthful, thoughtful, generous, perceptive, passionate, optimistic. I like to keep healthy, and I can be spontaneous. I like to have fun and can be very playful, like a big kid. My 16-year-old daughter, she says, so she's letting a potential partner know what's coming up, lives at home for 2 more years. So she's letting them know, if we become partners, I have a 16-year-old, but in 2 years gone. And as proof, she adds, my 20-year-old is in college in another city. See? If she said, my 16-year-old is going to be gone in 2 years, but my 26-year-old is living in the basement playing video games, well, it's not likely the 16-year-old's going to be gone either, is it? She says, the willingness of a dating partner to read the Real Love and Dating book and other stuff would be important to me. And she goes on and on. I'm just kind of summarizing. A willingness to explore a spiritual connection. In summary, I'm offering a relationship that's 100% committed. I will be committed to you. I'm looking for somebody who's going to be committed to me. I will be looking for somebody to accept as they are, but who's looking to learn, just as I am. She summarizes this really very beautifully. She just embodies a Real Love dating profile. Follow up. A guy wrote who she has known before, and she wrote back to him. There are a few things I'd like to say specifically to you. So a guy noted her profile. A guy wrote her, a guy she's known before. Now she's writing specifically to him. She says, if we got back together, because they'd been together for a little while, many years before, I would give all of myself to you unreservedly. You would have everything. You would have it forever. There would be no holding back by me. I would be willing to commit my body and soul to you forever. Whoa. Now, you would only put this in a follow-up letter. You probably wouldn't put that in your profile because it's really personal. It's perfect that you're stating what you're offering. You're not controlling him. You're just stating what you're offering in a relationship. And if he wants that, he would have to be willing to fully participate too. And you've told him what that would require. You continue, I would love to do this and to have you own me entirely. Wow, that almost sounds scary, doesn't it? But 2 partners really do own each other. They belong to each other. They don't claim ownership. They own each other because each has given themselves up to the other. Now pay attention. if he really wants to be in a relationship with you, not just with words, because he's already written to her and said, oh, yeah, I read your profile, and baby, I'm down with all that. More than words, he would jump all over this. He would live a life of real love. How could that be a bad thing? He'd want to know what your spiritual direction is. But see, it turns out that, and I'm not reading you what he sent to her, he's really reserved about, well, I'm not so sure I'm all into spiritual things, and I'm not sure I'd be willing to read a book together. Well, you're kidding. She just told him, I'm offering my body and soul to you 100%. And he's going, whew, wow, I'd have to read a book. Shoot, that might take me 3 hours. I'd have to spend 3 hours in order to have a partner where we'd be completely together. Not a really good sign, huh? She continues, I'd want the same from you. I'd want the same for you. Not because I would need you to do this for my benefit, but because you want to do it. We'd both have all of each other. We'd feel safe in the deepest, most glorious sense of safe. And you would know that you would never be alone again. Well, sheesh. If he means what he says, I want to be in a relationship, he'd change his whole life. Well, it turns out, I'm not going to read all the rest of this because it kind of goes on because they're communicating with each other. But he expressed a really strong desire to be back with her. And everything that she mentioned would be a requirement for a partner. So she's just saying, so for example, she's saying, my partner would have these things. And he replied with, well, I'm feeling controlled that you're telling me to read a book. Oh, no, she's not controlling him. She's telling him what her partner would look like. And what he's responding is, oh, well, I'm not like that. And I'm not like that. And I'm not like that. She's just saying my partner would have to be this. For example, I had requirements for a partner. Because I'm who I am, I would require my partner to be like, say, a woman. Is that controlling my partner? No. I'm just putting out there that my partner would be a woman. And when my partner came along, she said, yeah, I'm a woman and I'm willing to actually stay that way. I don't care if anybody else changes, but I would need my partner to stay one. There are other qualities that I would need from a partner. It would be fairly important to me that my partner could speak English because I really hate languages and I'm not willing to learn Tagalog, for example, which is the native language of the Philippines, or Farsi, or whatever they speak in Afghanistan. I don't remember. You get to choose your own requirements for a partner. And then people who don't meet those requirements would simply not be your partner. You're not requiring them to learn English. She's not requiring this man to do anything. And everything she said that she would want from a partner, he said, oh, I'm not really interested. She read his emails, and instead of going off on a weekend with him, which is what he asked for, what he was looking for was to get laid and have fun. Kidding? That's what that means. And she said, yeah, you're not only not meeting any of my requirements, you show no interest in it. And so she dropped him. She dropped him after 3 or 4 emails, as opposed to after 3 or 4 years of torture, expectations, disappointment, anger, resentment. You following? And it all started with her brilliantly worded profile. It's just an introduction. It's an invitation to be her partner. But she says, here's what you have to do. It's like Disney World does it. You go down to Disney World and have this beautiful ride, and they say, we would love to have you come on our ride. And then at the beginning of some of the scarier or more difficult rides, there's this little picture, and somewhere there's a line, and it says, we invite you to come on this ride if you're taller than this line. They had to use something. What were they going to do? Give you a psychological profile? So there's a requirement to ride that ride. If you don't meet the requirement, you don't get to ride the ride. You can go enjoy the rest of the park. Same with me. I have requirements for a partner. Donna had requirements for a partner. We should all have requirements for a partner, or we would just go out and randomly say, do you want to live with me, to whoever's on the street? That'd be stupid. And this guy said no to everything, said he was being controlled, which is absurd, which is also a really good clue. He would feel controlled about everything and do whatever he felt like. She dropped him. She's happy. He's still miserable. There's probably a clue, or I don't know, maybe an object lesson there even. New subject. I know a woman who's married to a man, Tom, who does nothing to help anybody with anything. Makes it easier to remember. You don't have to wonder what he does. He doesn't do anything. Not for anybody else. He doesn't help put the kids to bed. He does no housework. He has no time with the kids unless he has absolutely nothing to do and they hound him to death. He plays video games with his spare time. He goes on long bike rides with his work friend who happens to be a woman that he obviously flirts with. In short, he's a complete adolescent. He does nothing but play. And he thinks his family is a plaything as well, a toy. At night, he sleeps with his music on loud on his phone. He goes to bed and turns his music on loud because it relaxes him, even though he knows that it keeps his wife up for hours, and he tells her that she just has to get used to it. You're thinking, nah, oh yeah. And we all do something like that, where we do something because, well, we want to, and it bothers other people, and well, geez, too bad. And I told her that she's a hostage in her own bed. She's a hostage in her own life. And that she needed to tell him to either use earbuds or, gosh, there's so many solutions. He wears earbuds when he bicycles, but he can't wear earbuds to bed. He has it on loud because, well, he just doesn't care about her and he doesn't want earbuds in his ears. You're joking. But he does. He could wear headphones. He won't do that. Or he could listen to his music in the other room, and when he got sleepy, he could go to bed. Or, for that matter, sleep in the other room. Lots of choices for him. No choices for her. When he's got the music on, what are her choices if he refuses to turn it off? So she said, I came up to bed and I told Tom to listen to his video with the headphones on or in another room. He proceeded to fuss about, it's too funny to read, about how I should have some consequence so that I would learn to sleep without fussing about my preferences, as though he were giving a consequence to a child who snuck candy between meals. This level of immaturity is a little mind-boggling. Sometimes I hear things where I go, you're joking. Like as in, you're really kidding me. Consequences for your preference for quiet when you sleep. Really? That's not a preference. It's a norm. It's the gold standard, actually, as prescribed by every sleep expert on earth. To give you an example, in all the years I've talked to couples, which is a lot of couples, thousands and thousands of couples, I've run into one other spouse who would intentionally make noise while their partner sleeps. That puts Tom in a class of selfishness that is, well, I don't know, intergalactic. No kidding. 2 people out of thousands, and he's half of the 2. You can't fall for this. Almost insanely, you do. He gives you this reasoning and says, well, you need a consequence because you're selfish for your preference. And you actually listen to this. He intimidates you, and you fold. So what's the danger of you folding? It goes on and on. For one thing, you can't sleep. And then you're grouchy with him. Then you sleep hardly at all. You can't sleep with his music on until 2 or 3 in the morning, and then you get up 2 or 3 more times to take care of children who scream and cry because he won't get out of bed and he won't do anything about it, and you won't train the kids. So you end up sleeping 2 hours a night, and it's been proven that sleep deprivation less than yours is equivalent in danger to smoking in health effects. Really? Insanely, the man that she's talking about, her husband, is a physician. So you'd think he would know this, but that apparently doesn't matter. Second danger. You feel small. Every time you're lying there with the music on, with his loud, just call it the noise that keeps you awake, you feel small. You feel smaller and more insignificant, and you can't feel happy, and you can't feel loved. And third, I'm not going to keep numbering them, it encourages him to continue doing it. Every time you do it, it gives him like written permission. So when then you finally say, well, you need to turn the music off, part of him's going, well, what's your beef? It hasn't bothered you before now. What, are you like hormonal or what? See, he's feeling completely justified. You suddenly changed your mind. Are you sick? You have a cold? He blames it on you. And it completely affects the way you care for your 3 small children who get the effects of your sleeplessness, which is your touchiness, your irritation, your inattention because you can hardly keep your eyes open. He's suggesting that you simply live with, that you have some consequences, in his words, his staggeringly selfish behavior. You have to tell him sleeping in quiet is the standard. Now, those of you who are listening whose partners don't do this, you may not have a partner who does this when you're sleeping, but you have a partner who does something. You do. Brings their Labrador into the living room while you're eating dinner and climbs up on people's laps and knocks food all over. I could tell you stories all day long of unbelievable lack of consideration. Sleeping's the standard. It's what people do. I don't have to suffer a consequence for requiring sleep. That's like, well, if you're going to breathe, then you have to pay for it. What? It's not a preference. It's like needing air or water. Your preference to make noise, this is you talking now to him, while I sleep is actually bizarrely selfish and actually constitutes an assault, an auditory assault. Really. If the neighbors, for example, let's prove it, make loud noise with a party next door at night and you couldn't sleep, or he couldn't sleep, what would happen? He would call the police. Turns out he has. He's called the police for the neighbors making noise, but when he makes noise and you can't sleep, well then, that's okay. No, quiet is normal. You need to tell him that his standard is wrong. It's not just inconsiderate to you. Apparently he doesn't care about that. It's wrong. There are a lot of ways to illustrate this to him. You could, for example, as he's sleeping, get an air horn. And, shoot the air horn off in his ear while he's sleeping. I can already tell you what's going to happen. If you shoot off an air horn, he will bounce out of bed so fast, it will be like he's been electrically shocked. It's that stunning to hear an air horn close. And then just keep blowing the air horn until the police come. And then you just tell him, well, it relaxes me. Pretty absurd now, isn't it? Well, it is absurd. So is his playing loud music. You continue. I made the mistake of telling him that he was the one fussing. No, honey, no. It's not a mistake. See, you're already taking the blame. Again, he's got you intimidated. You continue. This, of course, escalated. I tried switching the light on it, looking for something loud to play, but I couldn't find something. Yeah, see, now, once you're in a battle like that, it's just retaliation. If you're going to do an air horn, you have to do it without notice. So I took his phone away. Twice, you say, which, of course, set him off. Oh, boy, has he got you convinced that you're wrong. You get to take the phone away. You get to. If my neighbors are making loud noise, I call the police, and they will either tell them to turn the music down or they will take them to jail. Because you get to stop the noise. If he were hitting you with a bat, would it be wrong to take it away? No. This is no different. He's just not hitting your body, he's hitting your ears. He can wear the earbuds. So simple, but he chooses to be selfish. He chooses to do whatever he wants to with the kids, with everything. He's just proving it. You say, I refuse to be around that, so I'm sleeping in the boys' room, in the children's room. Makes me shake my head. So he's being completely inconsiderate, and you're paying the price. Really. This is over. The next time, you don't sleep in the next room. You take the phone away as many times as it takes. Now, he's physically bigger than you. I know that. So you probably won't be able to get the phone away. But while you're attempting to take the phone away, he won't be sleeping either. Just your physical action would keep him awake. That's not retaliation. You're simply taking away the phone. And if he protests, you tell him that what you're doing is taking the phone, is not more disruptive than his playing the phone while you sleep. His selfishness is so staggering, I just shake my head and cover my face. It's that bad. And he's got you pretty much fooled. I have a curiosity question. You can do with it whatever you want to. Have you ever heard your husband say these words? I was wrong. Now, why do I ask that question? There's something called, and this is for the benefit of everybody, something called narcissistic personality disorder. This is where people have really a very tiny world. It's this big. It's their skin. And they have a really small dictionary too. It only has one word in it. Me. It's actually fairly big. It's just the word me over and over and over again. It has lots of pages in it. It just says me, 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 me. And if you look online, which you can these days, you can look up narcissistic personality disorder, and it goes on and blah, 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 blah. And there are books about it, and it says you have to have 5 of the following 9 characteristics, and it's snoring. And it's really pretty simple. It's as simple as, have you ever heard those words? I was wrong. Or I am wrong. Take a pick. If you never have, the odds of them having narcissistic personality disorder, about 87%. No kidding. And that's going to be tough. But at least you have to start addressing it. New subject. Here's a man who says, I was having a conversation with a woman last night after not speaking to her for a few days after she was resistant. So this is a man who's dating, a man who's experienced in real love, and he's talking about a woman who was really interested in having a relationship with him. And he says, I had a conversation with her last night after not speaking to her a few days because I said, if you want to learn more about real love and really live it, because she said she was really interested. She said, oh, I'm so interested in reading the book, but then she didn't read it. She said, I'm so interested in learning how to get rid of this behavior or that behavior. That's what she said. And people who are self-deceived are so sincere. By definition, if you're self-deceived, you have first deceived yourself and you don't know you're doing it. If you do know you're doing it, well, then it's just called, conning people. Self-deception is thorough. So when she says, I really want to learn these things, she means it. But that doesn't mean it's true. She thinks it does. So she said, I really want to learn. She won't read the book. I really want to change my life. And so this man suggested that she get a coach. Oh, well, yeah, I don't think I want to do that. Well, then she doesn't want to learn it. See? Actions matter. Words mean almost nothing. In fact, very often they're an obstruction. So you continue. Her conclusion was that she wanted to stick with what she knew, and she was irritated that if she didn't do real love, then she couldn't have a relationship with me. We talked about this earlier with the dating profile. You're not making her learn it. You're telling her what a partner would be like. A partner would be interested in unconditional love. Let me think. That'd be like saying, I want to be a swimmer. I really want to be an Olympic swimmer. I do. I just don't want to get in the water. What? You're kidding. That's what any swimming coach would say. You're joking with me, right? It's a stand-up where there's a camera here. It's impossible. That's what you're telling her. This is what I want in a partner. She's saying, oh, I really want to do that, but I don't want to get in the water. Well, then you don't really want to do that. She's oddly convinced herself she does. So you want her to learn about relationships before having one. Well, how demanding of you. You want her to learn to drive a car before she drives yours. Insane. No, it's not. Imagine that you're a pilot and somebody wants to go up in the air with you for a long journey, like life, in a multi-engine aircraft. You tell her this. You tell them that in order to do that in a multi-engine aircraft on a transoceanic journey, they would first have to learn, in order to be a co-pilot, because you got to have one when you go across the ocean. It's just too long. You know, sure, Lindbergh did it, but it's stupid to do. He almost died. She'd have to learn to fly, to be a co-pilot. Anybody would. So if they refuse to learn to fly, whining that you're trying to control them, well, then that becomes laughable, not controlling. If they really want to be a co-pilot on a plane, then, well, you can't be a co-pilot until you learn to first pilot. I know, nutty, but it's true. You can't learn to play duet on a piano until you've learned to play the, piano. So she's just proving that she doesn't really want to fly with you. End of story. Amen. It changes everything. When we bring real love into a situation, it makes us more perceptive. It makes us happier. It brings us better partners. It makes life more fulfilling. Amen. We'll see you in a week.